Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
I'm Uncle Dan.
And I am Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
Yup. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're Audio Uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Guys.
Hello.
Hello. Another week of just everything's coming up roses. And I love it.
Action, adventure, mysteries.
Yeah, we have all sorts of things. We have invisible peoples, which I'll be talking about. And
Absolutely.
Then Dan, you're talking about another invisible thing.
I'm talking about that great library in the sky.
And then I'm going to bring it home, with a segment that will definitely help you sleep. The first half of the Book of Acts.
Yeah, I wish that was invisible. And we have a little special announcement today. We have a kind of a call to action of sorts. But we, from our kind of stats that we can watch about downloads and stuff, we know that we have some listeners in Africa. And it's a bit scattered around Africa. We have a ton of listeners in South Africa. We have some listeners in very, very Muslim countries in Africa, which is amazing to me. And I've been able to see that we consistently have a single listener in Uganda, which is a very, very, very religious country. You're either a Catholic, an Anglican, or you're a Muslim. So it's funny because that listener reached out to us and is in a spot of trouble.
Yeah, a bit of distress.
He was raised in a very Muslim family, and through some circumstances was outed as an atheist. So he's in his heart he's an atheist, but he was just trying to survive, and he's been outed. So his life circumstances changed quite a bit, and he's kind of crashing with a friend right now, but he's kind of struggling. But what's cool about him too is he's a graphic designer, and he contacted us and said, "Hey, do you guys know anybody that could use some graphic design work? Just anything. I'm pretty desperate over here." So we kind of came up with the idea that why doesn't he do a design or two for us, t-shirt designs, and we will put them up on Threadless, and 100% of all proceeds from whatever is sold of those shirts will go to him.
Yep.
So this is kind of a really cool thing, and we can help a fellow listener who's in a pretty bad way. And it'd be a good thing for everybody. The shirts are really cool. They should be up by the time this posts. They will definitely be up on Threadless on our Heretic by the time of the public post.
You just go to our website. You go to howtoheretic.com. You click on the Heretic.
Yep.
And search out his shirts.
Look in the apparel section and the t-shirts, and it will make it very clear which ones are his. It'll be obvious. They're really cool. He put his spin on kind of our graphic look, and it's a good way to get something cool. He gets something cool, and we can all feel like less shitty people for a minute.
Yeah.
So help Shabu out.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And with that said, let us go do a show.
Let's do it. Uncle Dan.
Hey!
If there's one thing we've learned on this show is that...
there isn't.
Truly. Sometimes otherwise intelligent and smart people can believe in quite silly things.
What?
I myself have fallen for the reverse mortgage 3 different times.
Oh, my God. Yes, there are many things. And sometimes when you travel, you learn about such things. And I traveled to a place and learned about something that Uncle Mark's going to tell us about. And here's how I learned about it. Apparently, there's a road that I was on that they didn't destroy the rock to make the road straight. They curved the road around this dumb rock that would have been easy to get rid of. And there was a reason why, and I think, Uncle Mark, you can tell us what that reason is.
Well, before we get to civil engineering,
okay,
I think by some miracle, I might actually have found a topic today that does not specifically involve Nazism or racism.
Hey!
Either by design or in practice, I think. And I looked around quite a bit.
We're done. We're done.
I went to the dark web.
The show's over.
It's over.
I think we're in the clear, but just so you know, I can't keep this up every week or probably ever again.
Right.
Because we've discovered at nearly 450 segments on religions old and new, large and small, you can't build a belief system or much of a religion without a god, without a good solid foundation of garbage race theory based on backwater Iron Age folktales or whatever their regional analog is elsewhere in the world.
Right.
So let's enjoy this brief respite from the slime that lives under most of the rocks of faith and belief in the supernatural by, ironically, talking about some supernatural things that live in the rocks.
Right.
Not under them, and seem not to be racist at all. Just very private. Travel with me, dear uncles, to what is geologically the youngest nation on Earth, but one just old enough to have some silly and delightful folktales all its own, that nation being the land of fire and ice, the gorgeously beautiful and very enigmatic island nation of Iceland.
Woohoo!
Love
that place.
It's a fantastic place. Being one of the last...
I'm the only one who's never been there.
It's
Sucker!
Really? Well,
No, I've never been.
it's time to go. I think they actually have protocols for COVID.
Oh.
So, being one of the last settled, uninhabited land masses on Earth, Iceland is not only young as a geological form, but super young as a home to humans, who first settled this empty wilderness in just 874 CE, when a Swedish chieftain named Igor Arnarsson and his gang of merry men became its first permanent settlers. It should be noted that a few Scandinavians in the years just prior to that had been there for a little while, but had not stayed permanently. But he was the first to call it home. I don't know if you guys have been. Doug, you haven't. Dan, now I know you have, but it is an incredible place. I didn't know what to expect from Reykjavik, but as a capital city, it feels kind of like a cozy, medium-sized ski town.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Aspen, kind of.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone we met was absurdly nice and spoke flawless English.
And also, can I just say, gorgeous?
Yeah,
It is.
Was that your experience? Because
it was a bit crazy. Yeah,
It's part of Scandinavia, so you're gonna have that, right?
gorgeous people,
I had just come from Sweden, and we got to
which
Iceland.
is a land of ugly motherfuckers. Let's just be
Right.
honest.
Oh, yeah, horrific.
Yeah.
No, it's a land of Gap models in Sweden. And then we got to Iceland, and literally there was a moment where I was sitting across from Andrea, my wife, and my friend Dave was sitting next to her, and my back was to the window, and I watched as Dave and Andrea's eyes
Just darted around.
just glided along with every passerby, and their mouths just both hung open. And I was like, "Come on, this can't be. They can't be that beautiful." Oh my god!
Yeah, I have never felt more ugly in my life.
Well, Mark, this is a story for another day. But when Mark and I, once upon a time in another life, had left, we came out of Soviet Russia. Literally, this is a true story.
Yeah. Right.
We came out of Soviet Russia
in its collapsing days. It was just literally in the winter falling the fuck apart.
Yeah, and you know, malnourishment and was rampant,
Poverty
and of course
and
poverty
desperation,
and you know, orthodontia hadn't really reached the Soviet bloc yet, and we came out of that into Finland, into Helsinki, and same thing.
Yeah,
It was every woman looked like a perfected being, and every man looked like Thor.
yeah.
We were in like elf. It was in elf country. It was so fucking crazy. And they had like electricity the whole time. It was pretty nuts. So yeah, people, they speak flawless English. They were very eager to chat or offer directions or advice, or even to embarrass us about their superior knowledge of our country and its history. Jesse and I ended up at a party there one night, and this like 20-year-old kid was sitting on a couch talking about the Federalist Papers. I'm like, I got to get out of here. So technologically, what with their harnessing of their abundant geothermal power, etc., they seem like kindly Norwegians from the future. But almost in contrast to their advanced tech, they also seem way more connected to their landscape than your average American is here. It's a surprisingly big and empty country with just 300,000 Icelanders living at home. And they're mostly concentrated on the southern coast with almost no one in the great cold expanse of the middle. It is an amazingly green place in the summer with thick moss covering the endless fields and hills of basalt and black volcanic rock. The very dramatic North Atlantic is obviously also an enormous presence in Icelandic life, as are active volcanoes and other geothermal activity, and of course earthquakes, the bizarre extremes of months of darkness followed by months of daylight. It's a strange elemental environment that is as close to being on another planet as I've ever felt here on our beautiful flat Earth.
Totally.
Yeah, it's so otherworldly. And that eerie landscape and its mysterious forces might explain the Huldufolk, the traditional Icelandic belief that there are people who look and act pretty much like us, living mostly invisibly inside the rocks and the landscape of the island. Huldufolk is Icelandic for hidden people, and they are not the only invisible inhabitants of the island. Folktales include fairies, trolls, dwarves, and elves as well, who are called Alfar in Icelandic. But I'm more interested in the Huldufolk than the sort of sillier Tolkien-esque menagerie of trolls and fairies. But it seems like Huldufolk and Alfar, or elves, are words used interchangeably when referring to the hidden people. Descriptions of the appearances of the Huldufolk, in the rare instances people have claimed to see them, vary, as does their scale. They have been described as being from a few inches to several feet tall, to being proportioned normally as humans, unlike a little troll or something like that. But also to favor 18th or 19th century Icelandic fashion, which you should totally Google because it is quite charming. I think I might begin dressing thusly myself. It's very cool. They're said to raise invisible cattle and sheep at their matching scale. They marry and have children. They go to church, etc. They've always generally been seen as fairly ambivalent to human affairs, but can be mischievous or even dangerous if crossed. They're said to be extremely territorial and will fuck with anyone who disrupts their homes or invisible sheep and cow grazing. How to explain the belief in these strange, scalable, invisible Icelanders? Well, first let's look at the current level of belief in them, which is a bit hard to pin down. A widely cited survey was done of Icelanders in the 1990s, claiming that as much as 50% of them had some level of belief in the Huldufolk. This survey has been attacked, though, as being done by outsiders who had some vested interest in putting their thumb on the scale. A more recent poll is interesting, but also a little odd. It had 7% of modern Icelanders firmly believing in the Huldufolk and 10% firmly stating they do not exist. But that leaves like 80-ish% of people somewhere in the middle, which is pretty damned odd to me. Even a solid 7% believing is pretty high in a very advanced, highly educated country like Iceland. The fact that tons of people are like, well, I don't know, I mean, maybe, is a little bizarre to me. You know, maybe it's like the Icelandic Pascal's wager. Why not just believe on the off chance it's true?
Right. Yeah.
So, how to explain the origin of the Huldufolk? Well, the Christianized version goes like this, and it'll make as much sense as the Christianized version of anything. Adam and Eve were knocking around the Garden of Eden one day.
No.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. So almost 6,000 years ago. They had, in this weird story, loads of children, and Eve was busy trying to get them all washed up while Adam was doing whatever his stupid ass got up to. And then they heard God was shortly arriving for a little visit. In a panic, Eve hid the unwashed half of her brood so as not to be embarrassed when company came over. So God rolls in and checks out the scene and asks if they don't have more children, knowing full well they did. Eve was like, nope, this is it. And because God doesn't like being lied to, he declared that what can be seen would remain seen, and what is hidden shall forever remain hidden. Boom, the creation of the Huldufolk, in a place the writers of what became collated into the Bible had no idea existed at the time. And the moral of this story is, don't lie to God about the number of children you have. He's not Child Protective Services, as he's demonstrated time and time again. So,
oh, that's true.
Everyone clear? All right.
That's funny.
But the first people who settled Iceland were not Christians at all, but pagan Norsemen with their profusion of gods of war and love and wisdom and war again, and plenty of lesser trickster deities, etc. Their polytheism saw human attributes behind the cruel and random forces of nature. Iceland, with its barren vistas and twisted volcanic formations and steam hissing out of the ground all over the place, would have been kind of a spooky place for anyone who believed in meddling supernatural forces. Yeah. So populating it with invisible people certainly made sense. And the population thing here is also really important. This is really interesting reading. The Viking explorers and seafarers had never come upon a totally unpeopled place before. Some historians think that their culture was so identified with conquest and feats of arms that they weren't psychologically equipped to take a place without a fight. And they may not have been able to believe that so huge a landmass was totally empty. In short, it freaked them out.
Yeah.
So inventing the Huldufolk as some sort of halfway measure helped them make sense of this bizarre new land, maybe.
That's funny. It's like that scene in Life of Brian where he tries to buy that thing at full price. Yeah. And he has to haggle for it.
Yeah, and the guy's like, no, there's no other way to do it than haggling. So as far as the fairies and the other wee creatures, the Norsemen brought Irish slaves with them. Oops, almost made it through without racism or slaves, goddammit.
Damn it.
Oh well, it was more than 1,000 years ago, I'll allow it.
Bum, bum, ba-dum.
And those people long had legends of fairies and little people on the edge of human perception, so the presence of Celtic slaves likely contributed to these stories. Iceland has not always been as prosperous as it is now. For much of its existence, Icelandic society hung on by a thread. Summers are amazing but short. Were you there in the summer, Dan?
Yeah. I was there.
Oh my God.
Like right, sort of really close to midsummer.
It's the craziest experience, isn't it?
Yeah. It's I'll tell you this: if you're a photographer, you got to get up that far north because magic hour lasts for like 12 hours.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It gets a bit dusky, and then it's day again.
Yep.
So the summers are amazing but short. The winters are brutal, dark, and very long. The land is not terribly generous for agriculture, and nothing was really there for them when they arrived. Add to that they were always way too far from help from their ancestral lands. So the stories of the Huldufolk, from the most dire of times for the regular folks, have them witnessing the hidden people having banquets and parties with plenty to eat and drink. Later, when the austere form of local Christianity imposed a centuries-long prohibition on dancing, something Icelanders traditionally love to do, the stories of the Huldufolk banquets featured wild dance parties that went long into the night. So for people living on the freezing, dark knife's edge of existence, the Huldufolk's plenty and fun was probably, an aspirational parallel society,
right?
Like a fantasy space where your mind could wander off to as you tried to go to sleep on an empty stomach yet again. So even today, in this highly advanced country, there are holidays that nod to the Huldufolk. On Christmas Eve, many Icelanders still clean the house up and leave out some food so the local Huldufolk can come and have a party once everyone's in bed. And on New Year's, some people put out candles outside as traditionally this is when the Huldufolk move to new dwellings, and that will help light their way. Again, it's Pascal's wager. It never hurts to curry their favor, even if you're not super sure they exist. On January 6th, called Pretindin, or 13th night, the last night of Icelandic Christmas, people make bonfires called Alforbrennur, or elf fires. And on Midsummer Night, a tradition holds that if you stand at a crossroads at midnight, mischievous Huldufolk will appear and try to tempt you with gifts, which you must refuse for unspecified reasons. So avoid that if you can, I guess. So it may be that many Icelanders don't always want to talk to outsiders about the Huldufolk and the trolls, etc., because maybe they find it embarrassing and silly, and outsiders definitely pester them about it. I did when I was there, but that's kind of my shtick. Check out my podcast if you want to know more about that. But then there's this the strong impulse to draw as many tourist dollars as possible.
Yeah.
So they pump up the idea of the magical invisible folk by creating a touristic Icelandic kitsch. And believe me, there is so much of that for sale there. But my hunch is that Icelanders are super proud of the nation they've made out of one of the most hostile places on Earth, and the very idiosyncratic culture that developed there over centuries with very limited resources and little outside contact. I have to think they embrace the Huldufolk as part of that totally unique space they've created at the edge of the world, even while they fully embrace modernity more happily than most places do.
Yeah.
And where that modernity seems to run most afoul of the Huldufolk is, as Dan mentioned, in civil engineering. Even to this day, oddly in one of the world's most dramatic landscapes with towering rock formations and cliffs, the Huldufolk tend to live in fairly unremarkable mounds or smallish boulders, according to the pain-in-the-ass people who claim to be in contact with them. So several times in recent decades, objections have been raised to the route of a new road or a highway that would overrun a random, unremarkable rock. And they literally are almost always completely unremarkable. In a land of very remarkable rocks.
Yeah, totally.
So the Icelandic agency in charge of road construction has been pestered by the foreign press about this so many times. They have a standard press release they send out every time this comes up, basically saying they respect their traditions and folkways and will make reasonable accommodations to the concerns of the locals when planning for roads or bridges. Recently, a woman insisted a 20-ton boulder laying in the path of a road was a Huldufolk church, so the government moved it. Icelanders have swarmed a NATO airbase, demanding to see if the Huldufolk habitations were being respected. And an American aluminum plant was forced to scale down the size of its factory over concerns for the hidden people. So there's that. And one could easily speculate, this is kind of where I come from with a lot of this refusal to state a belief on this, is that some modern Icelanders, like the ones who stormed the base or forced the scaling down of the polluting plant, for them, maybe the Huldufolk are an avatar for a fierce environmentalism and a folk excuse handy for trying to protect their amazing landscape and environment. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't convince an American company to protect the environment, but if you come up with some religious reason, right? You come up with some folk reason they don't understand, they kind of have to back down. So, and if that is the case, I say, Lengi Lifi Huldufolk. Long live the hidden people.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, and it's, you know, it's. I have never been there. I've heard about this and read about this a bit. They're really they're a bit cagey about it, but they're sincere, pretty much, right? Like,
well, it's you know, you did what was that story you did a couple years ago about the Anasazi corn god, and all we know really about him is what the Hopis told us.
Yeah,
and you're like,
right.
It's entirely possible the Hopis are just completely fucking with us.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is kind of wonderful. And I think the Icelandic kind of ambivalence about this might be something similar to that. Right. It's a little bit of, go fuck yourself.
Right.
You know, it's not your business.
It doesn't seem to be, it seems benign. It seems fairly harmless.
I really looked for harm in this, and other than some really terrible tourist trinkets that people probably pay way too much for, I just don't see it.
Nah.
Well, more of that, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be out of business as a show if people would just have harmless dumb beliefs instead of what they do.
Yeah,
which
this is
not
almost
that.
a first for us, right? I mean, it's actually, rather than a harmful, you know, quote unquote supernatural belief, it seems to actually be beneficial in a way, because it has been employed to protect the environment. So
that's great.
If people want to come up with environmental superstitions and things to make the world a better place, I'm all ears.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's the Huldufolk, the hidden people.
Well, let's hide them back up again and move on.
Let's do it.
Slightly diverting or moving on around them. Well, Uncle Doug.
Hello.
Do you remember that thing you did in 8th grade? And we don't have to be super specific. You know what you did.
You promised we would never talk about this again.
Well, we're talking about it. And
Statute
you know why
of
we're talking
limitations
about
is
it?
long gone.
Why, you know why we're talking about it? Is because you were warned at the time that it would go down on your permanent record. And it has, hasn't it?
Oh.
And when you die, you're going to sit there and watch the film of your life with Jesus. And that is your real permanent record.
Do we have to watch all of the masturbation?
Yeah.
In full time? Can we just kind of...
I feel like maybe everybody gets to watch everybody's masturbation.
That's called Pornhub.
Yeah. And in heaven, of course, it's 4D. So just be ready for some liquid.
You can smell it?
Yeah. It's pretty visceral.
Okay.
So, Dan, what do you want to talk about your permanent record?
Here's what I want to talk about. Yes, I do want to talk about that. But I want to talk about it not in sort of a Jesus sense, although we will get to a little bit of God that feels super out of place here. But I want to talk about it in a woo sense. Because here's the thing. We've been poking around the edges of woo for a long time now.
Yeah.
Almost 150 podcast episodes in, and we've talked about so many modalities of bullshit, the head swims to think of it.
It does.
Psychics, astrology, crystals, homeopathy, Reiki, tuning forks, the law of attraction, pyramids, fucking Gwyneth Paltrow's vaginal egg goop. Those are her words, not mine.
Yep.
There's so much nonsense, and we've really only scratched the surface. And yet, if you find someone who believes in some of it, you've likely found someone who believes in most or all of it. Mm-hmm. And how is that possible? How can all of these concepts coexist? Well, fellas, I think I finally found it. The unified field theory of how all woo can be true at the same time.
Oprah.
She's part of it.
Of course she is.
And what fuels all of its amazingness, and this theory encompasses all of it. And it's appropriate that I would use a physics term to introduce this concept, because this is totally science. Allow me to quote from a prominent proponent of this theory. Quote, "There's a field beyond space and time from which everything emerges. It's the pre-created field from where the universe comes. It is eternal, beyond space-time, infinite, giving rise to space and time. It is the field of possibilities from where not only this universe, but possibly infinite universes emerge. And this is a domain of potential energy, information, space-time, and the world of material objects." Does it sound like the quote went off the rails a bit at the end there? A little word salady?
I hate to say that the quote went off the rails at the very beginning.
Okay, well, if you don't understand, don't worry. You're just too stupid to get the really deep shit.
Yeah, if you put all of physics into a little bowl and shook it up and then pulled out 4 things, that's what that sounded like.
Right. Well, just trust. The quote continues. Here we go. "It is my feeling that people who have intuition, insight, the so-called paranormal abilities, precognition, remembrance of other lifetimes, remote viewing, extrasensory perception, remote healing, these people have dormant, non-local potentials that exist in every human being." Anybody want to guess what deepity-spouting genius may have come up with those sentences?
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
I'll give you a hint. I excluded a part where this person talked about quantum physics.
So I guess this is starfucker extraordinaire Deepak Chopra.
It's got to be
Deepak Chopra. You got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This was Deepak Chopra discussing the Akashic field.
Oh.
And if it has the Chopra seal of approval, you know it's good.
Yeah.
So, what is the Akashic field? In that same Chopra video, he repeated a claim I saw a lot, that the Akashic field is an ancient concept that shamans and mystics all over the world have accessed and talked about. The word is from the Sanskrit, meaning ether or sky, unless you ask people who believe in it, in which case they say it's from a Sanskrit word, meaning something else entirely, but they're wrong. It might mean, quote, something that white women will pay too much money to hear about. With a concept that ethereal and ancient, it would be amazing if we could trace the idea all the way back to its source. But we can. The notion of the Akashic field goes all the way back to that ancient Indian guru, Helena Blavatsky.
Oh, Helena Blavatsky.
Our old friend, the 19th century Russian lady, founder of Theosophy. That's right. The appeal to the antiquity all the way back to the late 19th century.
To the founder of esoteric fascism.
That's right.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Blavatsky didn't even use the term Akashic field or the now more common Akashic record. She used the term Akasha, which she meant as some sort of wishy-washy life force concept. The concept of an Akashic record came from an English theosophist named Alfred Percy Sinnett and his 1833 book, Esoteric Buddhism, in which he cites another book, Henry Steele Olcott's 1881 classic, A Buddhist Catechism, in which Olcott wrote, quote, Buddha taught the two things that are eternal, namely Akasa, which is the same word as Akasha, and Nirvana. Everything has come out of Akasa in obedience to the law of motion inherent in it and passes away. Nothing ever comes out of nothing. Early Buddhism, then, clearly held to a permanency of records in the Akasa and the potential capacity of man to read the same when he was evoluted to the stage of true individual enlightenment. And there you have it.
There's a lot of dumb going on in one place right there.
Yep. In just a few derpy sentences, one white guy has given another white guy enough nonsense about an ancient Asian religion to set other bored minds reeling. It's the derp that launched 1,000 Karens. Incidentally, I couldn't find another source to any other sources to confirm that this actually is anything that the Buddha would have taught. I did a very small amount of research on it. So
Right.
I don't think that that's actually something that.
Well,
that the
what sucks is he's unavailable for comment.
It does, yeah.
We really
So-
struggle with any segment that includes him.
Yeah, it's tricky. But let's talk about the Akashic record. What is it? Where is it? When is it? How can I never hear about it again? Well, these are all good questions. Let's go to the man who really worked to get this notion rolling in the U.S., famous mid-20th century psychic ding-dong, Edgar Cayce, who I'm sure we'll get around to covering at some point on the show.
Yeah, he's the sleeping psychic, isn't that his
That's
nickname?
right, the sleeping prophet.
The sleeping prophet, yes.
So here's what he had to say. The Akashic records, or the Book of Life, can be equated to the universe's supercomputer system. It is this system that acts as the central storehouse of all information for every individual who has ever lived upon the earth. More than just a reservoir of events, the Akashic record contains every deed, word, feeling, thought, and intent that has ever occurred at any time in the history of the world.
Okay,
It is a permanent record.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it searchable? How do you navigate this thing?
We'll get to it.
How
We
do
will
you
get
do
there.
it? Control,
Yeah, exactly. You have to.
control,
Yeah.
and then you hit Omega.
Well, you have to log in. You enter your username and password.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm getting my Sanskrit keyboard out.
Yeah, do that. While you're doing that, I will say that what he's saying is true. Everything that has ever happened is written in this Book of Life, but the idea has grown since then. It's not just records of everything that has ever happened. If you learn to go to this universe-creating plane of existence, you can also read everything that will ever happen.
Oh.
It's a realm where everything is known, and you, yes, you, can visit there. Hooray! Want to know about your past lives? Go to the Akasha. Want wisdom from the ancients? It's all there. Want guidance on what your next career move should be? Yes, the Akashic records are open for your perusal. Want to know who will win the next 5 Super Bowls? Well, don't be stupid. It doesn't work that way. And you're kind of a jerk for asking.
So this is kind of Woodist. That's a new thing.
Hey, I like that.
100% that.
Buddhist woo predestination. How charming.
Kind of.
So life
sort
is
of.
pointless because you have no free agency or autonomy.
Well, it depends on who you ask, because I did read several people who were talking about how it can tell you your future if you stay on the same destiny path. So,
Well, I can tell you your future if you do everything that I say.
right.
It's just-
Or I can tell you your future, and if it doesn't come true, it's because you changed destiny paths.
Right.
Yeah, I think we'll find that there are some maybe hidden outs that practitioners of these can use to explain away any failures
Yeah,
that they might have
this
had.
is an idea so flexible it can be braided.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you can't ask about the next Super Bowls, but why not? If all the occurrences of all time are in there, why can't I get information on whether I should hit or fold? Or when to call my broker to create a financial instrument to short collateralized debt obligations? Well, these records have keepers, and they don't give out that kind of information.
Okay.
Oh, yes. There are cosmic librarians, gatekeepers to all of this information who decide what you do and do not need to know. These are universally acknowledged to be benevolent, kind entities who will only ever give you positive, affirming messages. If you ever feel a darkness or a fear or a concern when you're accessing your records, well, you're fucking doing it wrong, and you have to start over. Only nice things happen in the real Akashic field.
Of course.
And only nice things will happen in the future, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
All right.
When do we get there?
Yeah, right? So, what kind of nice things, you may ask? Well, maybe you'll see something about a past life of yours. Maybe you were a famous person. Wouldn't that make you feel special? You were Cleopatra or an Aztec warrior or something?
I have never heard anyone who believes in reincarnation find out that they were a fucking plowman.
Right.
Exactly.
That they were a guy whose job it was to scrape shit off of rocks for 30 miserable years. No, I was a queen.
Every single one of your past lives was a peasant. Enjoy.
Yeah.
No, you don't get that. But listen, maybe you'll get a sense that what you should do with a big decision. You should get a sense about what you should do with a big decision in your life. But it won't be as simple as, yes, you should definitely take that job and move your family to Texas. No, it'll be something subtle, like an image. Maybe you see a cowboy hat. That might mean move to Texas, right? Or maybe you associate cowboy hats with backwards thinking rednecks and it means you shouldn't move to Texas. Well, which one is it? Well, that's for you to figure out. With that kind of usefulness, I'm sure you're asking yourself, gee, Uncle Dan, how can I access this amazing resource? Well, there are several ways. As one middle-aged white lady in super funky turquoise-colored glasses on YouTube pointed out, you can access the Akashic Record a number of ways. Shamanic practices, sacred prayer traditions, breath work. Just, get real wooey, and it'll probably happen.
Yeah. Try the scattershot approach is always the best.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't hurt to smudge. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Most of the websites I've visited offer a prayer similar to this one, which I promise you I did not make up. Quote, "And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us." And by the way, I do want to point out, this prayer started with the word "and." Cool. "O Holy Spirit of God, protect me from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know," and then in parentheses, either myself or the first name of the individual being read, "in the light of the Akashic records, to see myself through the eyes of the Lords of the records, and to enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of me have for me. The records are now open."
Boy, I'll tell you what. I'll give you any record you want if you just shut the fuck up.
Oh, my God. I annoyed myself in that, and it wasn't even mine. I didn't write that part.
I will tell you who scores the most baskets in the 27-43 Indianapolis 500 if you just stop.
Please don't.
Because the records are open.
The records are open. As a quick aside, I wanted to point out that several of the sites that I saw mentioned that you should include your, quote, full legal name in the prayer. So that the cosmic librarians open up the right records for you. Because apparently,
what if you're married?
They're real sticklers about the paperwork.
What if you're a married woman who took your husband's name? Is it the
you got to use
the...
No, it's the legal name.
Okay, so whatever the last thing the court stamped.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
And also, speaking of that, they say that you should repeat the prayer 3 times, which I guess is the spectral equivalent to filling out a form in triplicate.
Boy, I did not think this could get any more stupid, and I was wrong.
Well, okay, so once you've said your prayer or chanted your chant or listened to your guided Akashic meditation, you're ready to ask your question, whatever that is. And so just, make yourself open to whatever answer comes. It's as simple as that.
Sure.
Unless you don't like the answer you're given, or somehow the Akashic record you're reading, or the Akashic record reading that you're receiving doesn't actually gel with your lived experience, then you need to remember that the Akashic plane is so vast that it encompasses every piece of information in every universe.
Sure.
Maybe you're just getting information that doesn't make sense to you yet. You just need to wait and keep it in your back pocket until you encounter an event where that information would apply.
Or maybe it's information for a much better version of you
Right.
in another universe. Therefore, it's none of your fucking business because you're a loser.
Or maybe
Yeah.
there's more than one John Tuttle, and you're getting all the wrong information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're getting
exactly.
Buttle's information.
That's right.
Yeah. Or maybe you're doing it wrong, you dick. So there you go. I was first made aware of the Akashic records a couple of weeks ago when one of my wooiest Facebook friends, a woman who makes her money as a quote-unquote life coach, wrote a post asking people if they believed that they could access theirs. I, being new to the concept, Googled it and instantly had a question that I'm sure many of our listeners are having. I asked her, if I wanted to attempt to access it, how would I know that it's anything greater than a trick of my own imagination? Her response, which included putting a space before but not always after every punctuation mark for some reason, was this. Quote, I've been accessing the Akashic records for 8 years, mine and others, and my egoic mind still wants to tell me that it's a trick of my imagination sometimes. So, it's a valid question. What I would say is that there's intuitive information that comes in that feels different. And knowing that couldn't possibly come from my brain, as I've never learned about those things. For example, I will access past lives of people and be able to see aspects, style of clothing, musical instruments, tools, landscape, etc., that I have never seen before, and I have to look it up and research it to know what my intuition is seeing.
If you don't know what it is, how do you look it up?
Shut up.
Well, and I love how too, like what her egotistical brain. What was it she said?
Her egoic mind.
Her egoic mind has been so basically her subconscious is trying to tell her this is all bullshit and you should stop wasting your time.
Right. Something inside of her brain is going, I'm making this up, aren't I? Shit, I'm just making this up. But she shushes that away and goes on with herself. I got to say, the last bit of what she said is somewhat compelling. Like, if she could see something that she had no idea existed, then go look it up, and lo and behold, it was a real thing back in the Middle Ages or whatever, that'd be pretty convincing.
But isn't this the same universe of Wu that says that the Native Americans didn't know they couldn't see the ships of Columbus because they had heretofore never seen them?
Maybe.
Maybe. This is for real. I had a dream last night that for some reason I had joined the Navy. And I was going through this very strange basic training, which had me walking into rooms and showing some supervisor a couple 20-sided dice. And he's like, oh, yeah, you go over there and do this, like, pugilist, this thing. Now, your head is just full of fucking information and scraps and bits of shit that you've picked up for your entire life.
Yeah.
So, maybe in some movie you saw a farm implement used by some ancient person and you never thought about it again until you went into some kind of fucking woo state.
That's
and there
right.
it was. Like, all this stuff in my dream last night is shit I've seen all over the world randomly jammed back together in some bizarre, pastiche.
Our tricksy little brains can fool us into thinking a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable scenario. That she saw some things in movies and then her imagination recreated it.
Yeah.
Or maybe she imagined something she didn't really recognize and then went looking for it and found something similar that wasn't really the same thing, but, close enough. Or
Yeah.
maybe she felt something from the records and then that something solidified later as the thing she happened to be looking at in her Ren Fair Quarterly magazine or whatever.
Yes.
Who knows?
Or it could be that there's a giant book with everything in it that ever happened, ever, guarded by people who won't tell you most of it, and I could go on.
Yeah.
But I think that's more likely.
I mean, that's the obvious choice for truth in this scenario.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, the point is that, like so much woo, there's no way to conclusively prove that it isn't real. So I can believe it if I want to. Why do you always have to try and ruin nice things for people? You're an asshole.
Yeah. And I think the moral of this story is everybody in my dream last night kept saying, aren't you too old for this? You can't join at this age. And I was like, I know. I don't know what I'm doing here. So, you know what I mean? I
can't believe they didn't keep asking you if you were here for the semen.
Oh, hey-o. In the Navy.
Yeah. So,
Well, I think that the point of this whole segment is that if there's anything to this Akashic record, it means you have to join the Navy.
that's right. That's what the universe was telling me.
That's right.
It's time at age 51, it's time to serve my country.
Set sail.
Ahoy!
And let's move on.
Let's do it.
Hey, boys.
Greetings.
Well, hello.
Uncles both. Listen, some of our nieces, nephews, and nibblings have been good little kids and are giving us some of their money.
Yeah.
It's a neat thing that some of them do, the ones who can afford it. And so we owe some thanks to some folks. And I think that we should give that thanks that we owe.
Why not?
So, first, thanks so much to Word of the Broad. I don't know what it means, but there it is. And now I think Uncle.
Oh, did we forget our friend Mary?
Oh, we're gonna do Mary. I was
Yes.
gonna do anyway. So yes, sorry. We owe Mary some thanks because we forgot to. Somehow, we didn't thank her. Let me tell you something. Patreon has not made this easy. I had an old system. They ruined my old system. They had a new system. They promised it's better. I've been using it. They're wrong. I keep missing people. So
The old system wasn't great either, and this one is worse. So thanks, Patreon.
Yeah.
You're killing it.
Yeah. So there we go. Anyway, thank you so much, Mary. Uncle Mark,
We.
I think it's your turn to do a saint, and I'm going to give you. I'm going to assign you to do the saint for Daniel.
Daniel. For you?
Yeah.
Did you
Not for
finally
me.
become a patron?
No. I would never ever give my money
literally
to this
never gonna
piece of
happen.
shit show.
So, okay, well, Daniel the Other, which is kind of, you'll see is going to be a theme of this show.
Yes, indeed.
You get Saint Leonard the Mortified of the tri-state area. What's great about Saint Leonard is you can really pick any 3 states. It's not that big a deal. So, Leonard is the patron saint of the 2016 fully loaded Chevy Tahoe.
Great.
All Portuguese lives lost at sea world.
Okay. Sure.
And macrame swimwear.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take it all, and then you've got Saint Leonard.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That is amazing.
Yeah.
We have one more bit of business to do, and that is that we owe a heaven to Veronica. So I will now bestow that upon her. Well, you died, Veronica. You're dead, but you were like, good and stuff when you were alive. So you get to go to heaven. Yay! You take a big flight of stairs up into the sky or whatever, and you're there in the blue with clouds all around, which is pretty cool. And then, you wait in line for a while because, it's not like you're the only person in the world who was good. I mean, there are lots of other people who deserve to go to heaven too, right? So it's not just you. So then you finally, you get to the front of the line and check it out. It's St. Peter. And he's all, what's your name? And you're like, Veronica. And he's like, cool. And then he looks you up in his enormous book or whatever, and he goes, yeah, you're good. And then these huge gold gates open up behind him. Some people call them pearly gates, but they're obviously gold. Who would make a giant gate out of pearls? That's stupid.
It's just going to fall apart.
But there's probably like pearls on the gate though. Like, diamonds and emeralds and shit too. So why isn't it called the Diamondy Gate instead of the pearly one? It doesn't make any sense, People are stupid. So anyways, you like walk through the gates and, like there you are in heaven. So, that's cool, I guess. Congratulations.
I'm selling this. This is awesome. Yeah, is that it?
Was that it?
Is that the whole thing?
Well, what? I wanted one person to get like, just regular heaven, All our heavens always turn out so bad for everybody for some reason. So I just wanted to give one nice, normal heaven. But I mean, I guess I haven't really described it much, so I should probably do that.
Yeah, give it a go.
Okay. Like you totally get a gold harp. That's for sure. But nice. It's not stupid, right? Like you'll know how to play it, like super good. Without practicing or anything. You'll just pick it up and be like, wow, 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 wow. I mean, I don't really know what a little golden harp sounds like, but it's like heaven, right? So you can probably make it sound pretty sweet. And everybody there is dressed in, kind of cool white robes and sandals, which is, I guess, boring or whatever. But, maybe the robes are kind of like silky or something, so you could probably see the outline of their angel boobs real clear, right? I'm guessing that's all angels are pretty sexy, don't you think? So that's hot. And, people are probably flying around everywhere, so you could probably look up their robes and see their junk too sometimes, so that's kind of cool. Oh, and everybody has wings, right? That's the thing, isn't it? Angels totally have wings.
Yeah.
Or maybe some people do and some don't. Oh, like, isn't there something like you got to wait for a bell or something? So maybe you don't get your wings right away, but maybe, like, bells ring a lot. So you're probably okay. You'll just get your wings, like, pretty soon. Like, I was at a crosswalk that went across a train track, and this train was coming, right? And the red lights started flashing back and forth, and this bell was like, bing, 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 bing. Bing, 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 bing. And I was like, okay, bell, I get it. And it was super loud and whatever, and I got a little disoriented, and I just wanted to get away from that bell because it was so loud. So I started walking, and that's when that big, long, black and white striped arm, the wooden thing, came down and hit me in the head. And, like, a bunch of people were there, and they saw it, and they all started laughing. This is pretty funny, I guess. I don't really like trains anymore, though. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Do you smell toast, Dan?
Oh, yeah, heaven. I guess there's
Dan has evolved into Cheech Marin over the course of this heaven somehow, and I'm here for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So heaven, right? There's I guess there's food or whatever. I don't know about that. Oh, and a lot of clouds, right? But not like dark, ugly clouds. White puffy ones. Like when you're on an airplane and you look out and there's a cool puffy cloud below you, and you know that you can't, but you're pretty sure that you could just jump out of that plane and land on that cloud, and it'd just be the most comfortable place in the world, and you could just lie there and chill. It's like that. And I don't know what else. I mean, it's heaven, right? So it's gonna be classy and shit. So I'm guessing they don't have Xboxes or anything like that, and everybody's good and righteous and stuff, so you probably can't score any weed or even beer or whatever. So I don't know what you're supposed to do up there. Just hang out, I guess. Talk to Gandhi or Mr. Rogers or Superman or whatever. So there you go. Ta-da! Heaven.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. I'm sure that's I think what she's going to love most about it is the incredible level of detail.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Veronica's like real lucky and
Hey,
stuff.
if Veronica, if that made you sleepy, wait until the next segment. You are going to be in a coma.
It's going to wake you right up.
Okay, well, if you want to be treated just as badly as we've treated these people, you can go to howtoheretic.com and click on the Support Us tab and give us some of your money, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, Uncle Mark, tell them about the stars.
Well, you know what you can do? You can be a ninja. You can be a ninja and throw 5 stars at us, and let's just see what happens. Let's see if... Yeah, exactly. Let's see if we can sense their approach from a sideways angle while we're meditating.
Yeah, we'll catch them between our hands.
Yeah. So give us 5 stars, throw them at us, and that's going to be a great thing for all of us. And that's all I got.
Okay, let's move on then.
All right.
Oh, Uncle Mark.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. Yes.
For you and I.
You know, for your own safety, don't come up behind me, man.
You do know karate.
I'm a Navy guy.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
Yeah.
Listen, not for our listeners, but for us right now, it's Sunday.
Sunday.
And Sunday is the day of the Lord.
Well, but let's not forget that Saturday is a special day.
It's the day
we get ready for Sunday. But Sunday is also a special day.
That's Mormon children deep cuts right there. Mm-hmm. So I think we should have a Bible lesson, but I didn't bring my Bible. I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, I haven't committed to memory. What do you want to know?
I want to know what Uncle Doug has to say, because I don't care about your memory.
All right.
Well, dear uncles, there is a book, a certain book, a book whose grace and handsome pace are known across the land. You know its name. It's the Holy Book. It loves to smoke, enjoys a joke. Why, it's worth 10 times what it weighs. Fine.
I am not familiar with that at all.
What is that from?
You try and find words that rhyme with the Bible and set it to music from Citizen Kane and The Simpsons. By the way,
challenge accepted.
Wow!
A couple.
Well done.
Thank you.
I thank you for that, and let's move on.
Yeah.
You wish. A couple of weeks ago, we took a deep dive into what I consider to be the greatest action movie ever made. So today, I thought we could take a dive.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, which is a true. Yeah. I thought we could take a dive into a book that, at least according to several of my Sunday school teachers when I was a boy, told me that it was the greatest action book in the Bible.
Ooh. Wow. So where do I sign?
It's saying so much.
Today we're going to take a look at all the testosterone and adrenaline-soaked action that is the Book of Acts.
Oh.
And if you read the Gospels and came away thinking, I want to know more about Peter, this is the book for you.
That was exactly what I thought.
The Book of Acts, or as it's commonly known, the Acts of the Apostles, is the 5th book in the New Testament, right after the Book of John. So biblical scholars are pretty much in universal agreement that this book was written by the author that wrote the Book of Luke. In fact, these two books are commonly referred to as a single work, Luke Acts. Taken together, these two books alone make up 1/4 of the New Testament. They are long.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to break this segment into 2 parts because I am lazy.
Thank God.
Yes. You will thank me at the end, I promise you that. So if Luke was the original Alien movie, slow, creepy, and brooding, then Acts is definitely the more action-packed sequel because some things actually do happen.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I almost said nice.
You did say nice. Nice.
Nice.
Aside from the 4 Gospels, which are the same story told 4 times, and the insane book of Revelation that we suffered through in episodes 58 and 60, the rest of the New Testament is nothing more than letters. So if you want action, there's nowhere else to go.
I believe you mean epistles.
I do mean epistles.
When I was a kid, I just thought that was a fancy way to say apostles. I didn't understand.
Totally. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, you take more epistles than anybody I know.
Sure do. Doing it from the toilet right now. Proceed.
Okay. As we've discussed at length before, the 4 gospel writers were not named Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. None of them ever met Jesus. They wrote their books decades after he died and wrote them for different purposes and to different audiences. And The Jesus of each of these books is substantially different from the others. Christians have always said that the 4 Gospels are just 4 different retellings of the same story. However, they do not agree on names, dates, or even events, so that's a bit hard to reconcile. The Jesus of Luke is the Savior Jesus to all mankind. He is kind, caring, unfairly persecuted, and a friend to Jews and Gentiles alike. Luke seems to want to explain how a man who died a devout Jew founded a church that was, at the time that this book was written, primarily made up of non-Jews. So here we go. I have, of course, like Charlie Brown in the football, returned to the King James Version for this, so strap in. Chapter 1, verse 1 lets us know that this treatise is being written for some dude named Theophilus. Incidentally, this was who the book of Luke was also addressed to. Although there are theories, the exact identity of Theophilus appears to be lost in the sands of time. However, the name in Greek translates to friend of God or beloved by God, so it may not have been a single specific person. The important thing to know here is that it doesn't matter, and I don't care. So, we are told that after Jesus was crucified and resurrected, he stayed with the apostles for 40 days, speaking of things pertaining to the kingdom of God. What were those incredible things that he told them for 40 straight days? Well, it appears the author doesn't think that the Bible is the time or the place for such things. and then Jesus, just like Kaiser Sose and Kevin Spacey's career, poof, he's gone.
Yeah. You know what I like most about the writers of the Bible? They're like, you know what? Let's just let people in the future fill in the blanks. That'll probably work out fine.
I know.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
So on a side note, in the Book of Mormon, when Jesus visits the Nephites, it's immediately after his resurrection. This obviously contradicts the Book of Acts, but you can just toss this on top of the pile of contradictions and anachronisms that fairmormon.org is burning the midnight oil trying to explain.
Right.
So after the 40 days, Jesus ascends to heaven, and while the apostles are looking upward, 2 men in white apparel appear to tell them that Jesus will return just like he left. So that happened.
Nice.
We get a roll call of the remaining 11 apostles, Peter, James, John, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, Bartholomew, Matthew, James, Simon, and Judas. But not that Judas, another Judas, the brother of James. I would imagine being named Judas in the first century Judea must have been like being named Adolf in post-war Germany or Ivanka today. In the 3 synoptic gospels, by the way, the names of the apostles are pretty consistent. The only difference is that the other Judas is either also named Thaddeus or Lebbeus, or is some other guy named Thaddeus or Lebbeus. But as far as the Bible goes, that's as close to consistent as we're going to get. So, of course, in the book of John, everything gets mixed up because John did it all differently. Who knows? So back in somebody's attic, Peter stood and spoke to what was left of Jesus' flock, numbering about 120 people at this point. So it's not much. He stood up and he spoke the immortal words, quote, "You guys remember when Judas helped Jesus fulfill his mission for some silver, then became so cursed and guilt-ridden that he hung himself and his intestines exploded out his anus all over the field?
Yeah.
So much so that they now call it the field of blood, right?
Yeah.
Anywho, there's a job opening."
No, I don't remember that. I saw it.
I remember that Joseph Smith said that actually the other apostles kicked him to pieces.
That's right.
That's how that was explained by Mormonism. Yeah.
Well, however it happened, there was a job opening.
Yeah. Fill it in the blanks.
2 of the assembled submitted their resumes, Joseph and Matthias. I would love to see Peter checking off the prerequisites for this position. Male? Check. Sandals? Check. Jewish? Check. Indistinguishable enough from the rest of us that you could be easily played by a white guy in a bunch of crappy movies in 2,000 years? Check. So apparently both these guys were qualified enough, so the 11 cast lots and chose Matthias. Chapter 2 begins with all the extant Christians gathering in one place for the Feast of Weeks, a.k.a. the Pentecost. As they were sitting and praying, suddenly there came the sound of a mighty wind, and tongues of fire appeared over each of them, and they all began speaking in different languages. Remember, kids, don't take the brown acid. Apparently, because it was Pentecost, there were Jews from every nation under heaven in Jerusalem, which is strange, but okay.
Wow.
I know, right?
All those Chinese Jews showed up.
That's funny. You should say that. When they all heard the commotion from the assembled Christians, they drew near to see what was going on, and instead of being confronted with what you would hear in a crowded bus station, each man somehow recognized someone speaking in their own language.
Oh.
So which languages were they speaking? Nobody asked. Well, I'll tell you. because the Bible seems to love lists as much as it fears birds.
Yeah.
There were Christians speaking the language of Parthia, Medes, Elam, Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, Libya, Cyrene, Roma, Crete, Arabia, and, of course, the language of Asia.
And Lemuria. You forgot Lemuria.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the crowd collectively wondered how this could be happening and whether all these people were drunk, because one thing we know about alcohol is it makes you speak other languages better.
It's true. Have you guys ever seen me bust out Spanish after a few drinks?
I have.
It's definitely better in my own mind.
Exactly.
I feel a lot better about it.
At this, Peter gets up and yells at the crowd that they could not be drunk because it's just the third hour of the day. Clearly, Peter was never confronted with a stay-at-home order during a pandemic because that excuse don't work no more.
Right.
In what will be a pattern, Peter goes on to guilt-trip the assembled Jews that they should feel really badly about the fact that they had crucified Jesus, who, they didn't crucify, but oh well.
Yeah.
The guilt trip works.
Point of order, Christians, it was the Romans.
It was the Romans. It's in the Bible.
Yeah. Their court, their nails, their cross, their guy with the hammer.
But if you're going to use their own book against them, what's even the point anymore?
Yeah.
This guilt trip of Peter's works, and about 3,000 Jews get baptized on the spot, become Christians, and receive the Holy Ghost. So for a church that just one chapter earlier numbered about 120, this was a good day.
Yeah.
The chapter ends with the apostles performing many miracles, which remain undescribed because why would we want to know about that? And with the new church becoming basically a communist society, with all possessions belonging to the collective being doled out according to need.
Okay.
Yep. Chapter 3 begins with Peter and John healing.
So what you're telling me is that all Christians should be communists.
Boy, and this point will be driven home.
According to their books, yes.
Yep, and this point will be driven home with some zeal in a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the beginning of chapter 3, John and Peter heal a crippled man in the gates of the temple, and it ends with Peter guilt-tripping the astonished crowd for having killed Jesus and allowed Barabbas to go free. Chapter 4 begins with the priests and the Sadducees seizing Peter and John and incarcerating them overnight for blasphemy. However, it turns out that Peter's haranguing caused a further 5,000 people to join his church.
Boom!
The next day, the Sadducees brought Peter and John before them for interrogation. When asked how they had healed the crippled guy yesterday, Peter guilt trips them about how they killed Jesus, and it's by his power that they've done this. It's kind of his only trick. The Sadducees were in a bit of a pickle because apparently this miracle of the healing the crippled guy was the talk of the town, not least of which because the guy was in his 40s. I don't know why that matters. I guess by the at that time and place, being in your 40s meant you shouldn't be fixed, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the equivalent to our 90s.
Yeah,
Right.
it also meant you were very old.
Yep.
Yeah.
So unable to deny the miracle or cover it up, the Sadducees decided to threaten Peter and John and command them to never preach in the name of Jesus Christ again. Peter and John said no, to which the Sadducees, who had very recently shown what they could do with disobedient Jews, said, all right, off you go then. So Peter and John returned to their flock and bragged about their exploits for several verses. Chapter 4 ends with another description of the communist nature of the church, with anyone who owned land selling it and presenting the proceeds to the apostles. So, has the promised action book of the Bible not yet provided the nitrous-fueled bombacity that was promised? Well, don't worry, because in chapter 5, the shit gets real. As previously mentioned, the official religion of modern-day capitalism was founded as an anarcho-syndicalist commune. And so enter married couple Ananias and Sapphira. And as we've discussed at length, very few women in the Bible get names, and in about half the cases there, it doesn't end well for them.
Right.
So Ananias and Sapphira had sold some property and were required to then present the entirety of their earnings to the apostles, but they held back a little bit for themselves.
Oh, no. That's a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
Right there.
Well, it's one they won't repeat. Ananias placed the diminished earnings in front of Peter, who by discernment of the Holy Ghost knew he was being deceived. Peter jumped to his feet and accused Ananias of lying to man and God, at which point Ananias dropped dead on the spot. Boom.
Oh, see, now, when we were talking about the Huldufolk, when Eve lied to God about her dirty children, they were just made invisible forever in Iceland.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess he cares about property management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So several men carried away his corpse before his wife Sapphira knew he was dead. When she entered the room, Peter asked her if the money presented was the correct amount, to which she answered yes. Peter accused her of lying, at which point she dropped dead on the spot and was carried off.
These people aren't seeing a pattern, are they?
A couple things here.
Yeah.
First, this is supposed to be a book around which we are to organize our lives. A good book. The good book. And here we have Peter straight up murdering 2 people for petty theft. Secondly,
can it be considered murder if they just die because he accused them of something?
Well,
He has magic accusation powers. I'm just impressed by that.
It's God murder.
Yeah. And second, and I really want to drive this point home, according to the Bible, lying about real estate holdings is a capital crime. Let me say that again. According to the Bible and the New Testament, no less, lying about real estate is a crime for which the punishment is death.
Okay, hold on. I got to give this book another look.
I know.
I got to rethink some things.
Oh, shit.
Is that in 2 Corinthians that happens?
All right. These 2 deaths obviously caused fear in the hearts of the other followers, which Peter and his posse put down by going on a marvelous miracle spree, healing any sick or possessed people that were brought to them. This caused the Sadducees to throw all of the apostles into prison. Again, they were imprisoned they were not imprisoned for multiple homicides, but for healing the sick. Fine.
Yeah, sure.
An angel appeared that night and removed the apostles from prison and commanded them to go back to the temple in the morning and preach. The Sadducees sent for their prisoners and were alarmed to find them not in their cell, but back in the temple mouthing off. Fearing the crowd, the Sadducees had them brought before them again, but peacefully, where they were asked why they were preaching Jesus' teachings when they had been specifically commanded not to. Peter, you'll never see this coming, starts guilt-tripping the Sadducees for killing Jesus. This time they decided the best course of action then was just to kill them. However, one of their number, a Sadducees named Gamaliel, took to the defense of the apostles, and his defense was interesting.
That he was the enemy of the Smurfs.
What was that guy's name?
Gargamel.
Gargamel, that's right.
Yeah.
He referenced 2 other itinerant preachers of the day, Thaddeus and Judas of Galilee, another Judas, and reminded the Sadducees that once those 2 died, their followers melted away and their movements died on the vine. Gamaliel said, let these guys go, and if their message is made up, it will disappear. However, if their message is of God, well then, we're all fucked. The Sadducees found this argument persuasive and decided to release the apostles, but not before once again commanding them to shut the fuck up about Jesus and beating the shit out of them. So there's that.
Like you do.
The apostles took the beating as a sign that they were in the right and kept right on preaching. Chapter 6 begins with the dispute between the Grecians and the Hebrews about how widows are to be treated, which leads the apostles to appoint 7 deacons. How this solves the problem of the widows is never explained. But one of the new deacons, Stephen, had a particular zeal for preaching and soon ran afoul of a synagogue used by the Libertines, the Cyrenians, the Alexandrians, and the Cilicians.
Stephen, the preaching deacon. I like him.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
Yeah, he's got a good, strong sales pitch. He's got a brand.
Don't fall too in love with him.
Fuck.
This group arrested him.
He's going to die in episode 3, isn't he?
He's going to die in episode now. The group fell upon him and accused him of various and sundry blasphemies. As they accused him of these crimes, his face took on the countenance of an angel in chapter 6. Chapter 7 starts with Stephen reading from the book of exposition to his accusers by giving them the recap of the story so far, starting with Abraham through Moses.
Wow.
I know. It's like, no. So he goes through Moses and eventually Solomon, and he reaches the crescendo of his monologue with, quote, "Ye stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, you do always resist. You do always resist the Holy Ghost."
Oh man, my penis is circumcised. That's not enough, though. I got to do my heart and my ears too.
Listeners, do not circumcise your hearts. It is a bad. Just believe. You never believe anything I've ever told you. But what is stiff neck? Because Joseph Smith used that all the time too.
That's a good question. It's obviously from the Bible, and then Joseph loved it because he used it a ton.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's look it up.
Yeah,
I think it just means like stubborn, right?
Yeah, but I remember in seminary they taught me that it had some specific meaning. Like, we'll figure it out.
Well, maybe I've been in a rear end accident. It's pretty bad for a while. It's really, you can't even turn your head.
We'll answer that question in part 2.
All right.
All right. So his accusation didn't sit well with the mob, who, quote, gnashed on him with their teeth.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, right?
that sounds kind of sexy.
I don't know how else to take that but the obvious.
Yeah, they just chewed on him a little bit.
Yeah.
Did they ask his safe word first? 'Cause
It's Mahanre Moriankamer. Okay, they then dragged Stephen out of the city and stoned him. As he was being stoned, he looked up heavenward and saw God, with Jesus standing to his right, and then he died.
No,
This makes
Stephen
Stephen
the preaching deacon.
he's the very first martyr for the Christian faith, aside from,
Is
Jesus.
he?
Yeah.
I know a guy named Steven who gets stoned a lot.
So as he died, they tore away his clothes and threw them. They landed at the feet of a young man who was watching the stoning, whose name was Saul. It seems that the writers wanted to make sure that Saul was not to make clear that Saul was not participating in the murder, just watching, which, as 3 former police officers in Minneapolis are finding out the hard way, is also a crime. End chapter 7. Chapter 8 begins with the great persecution of the burgeoning Christian faith, led by our new friend Saul, who it says, quote, made havoc of the church, going house to house and throwing Christians in jail.
That guy's going to have to change his name if he's not careful.
Christians were forced to scatter, but it didn't slow their zeal, and the scattering only sent emissaries into different lands to preach the gospel of Jesus and gain converts. Excuse me. One of these was Philip, that was sent, one of the original 12, who entered the city of Samaria and began performing miracles and causing, quote, a great joy in the city.
Uh-oh.
There was
That's a misdemeanor right there, causing joy.
Yeah.
There was one in the city named Simon who was basically another wannabe savior. Apparently these guys were all over the place. But he heard Philip preached and decided to be baptized and join him in his mission.
This is Simon Magus.
Simon who?
Isn't this Simon Magus?
No.
Oh, okay.
I hate to break it to you. There are a lot of people named Simon and Judas and John and Mark in this story.
All I know is that whatever Simon says, I'm supposed to do it.
So Simon all the apostles arrived in Samaria to give the baptized people the gift of the Holy Ghost. When Simon saw this, he offered the apostles money for it, to which Peter said, quote, thy money perish with thee, because thou hast thought that the gift of God may be purchased with money. Thou hast neither part nor lot in this matter, for thy heart is not right in the sight of God. For I perceive that thou art in the gall of bitterness and in the bond of iniquity. This shows 2 things. You cannot buy the kingdom of heaven with money, and Peter, in case it was not already clear, was a colossal dick.
And Mr. Smarty Pants, that's Simon Magus. That is the guy who Simony is named after that we discussed when we talked about the Holy Previews.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
That's Simon Magus. Yeah,
That's right. You're right.
He tried to buy the Holy Ghost, essentially.
You're absolutely right. My bad.
Apology accepted.
In my defense, there's like 9 more Simons in the story. So
Of course there are.
I got it mixed up. All right, so Philip is then commanded to go south and preach, which south, of course, in this geography is Africa. Philip runs into a powerful Ethiopian eunuch who was in charge of all of the Ethiopian Queen Candace's money.
Hold
yes,
on.
her name was Candace.
I'm just wrapping my head around powerful Ethiopian eunuch.
I know,
Just enjoy the visual. You're fine.
Yeah, it's an amazing visual. Okay, great. I'm down. Let's go.
So he preached to him and then ended up baptizing him, which marked the Christian church's entry into the continent of Africa. Once baptized, and so obviously, the Ethiopian church is literally one of the oldest Christian churches.
Yes, where it remains, yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the possible resting places of the Ark of the Covenant.
That's right.
And what's sad is that they still haven't recovered.
They have not recovered.
All right. So once baptized, once he baptized the eunuch, Philip disappears and then reappeared in Azotus, preaching his way until he reached the city of Caesarea, and chapter 8. We begin chapter 9 by revisiting our old friend Saul, who was, quote, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord. Saul was on his way to Damascus to persecute Christians there when he had his great and fabled road to Damascus moment, while coincidentally on the road to Damascus.
Wow. Who could have seen that coming?
This is also called his Christophany.
So this is where he had a pretty substantial migraine and thought he saw
exactly.
Yeah.
So a great light surrounded him. He fell on the ground. He heard a voice that said, "Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me?"
Yeah.
Saul was terrified and asked who was speaking, and the voice said, quote, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Mm-hmm. That phrase obviously sounds better when sung by Johnny Cash. But the meaning relates to a goat or a hoax used on a beast of burden. If the animal is kicked, it only causes more pain or harm. I'm not totally sure why it applies here, but okay.
Shut up, that's why.
Struck blind, Saul is led to Damascus and left alone and afraid for 3 days. God then called one of his followers named Ananias, no, not the one murdered for petty larceny a few chapters ago, and told him to go to the house of Judas, no, an entirely different Judas, where Saul was.
Rock me, Ananias.
Was it the same Saul or a different Saul?
So Ananias was a bit reluctant, for Saul was known among Christians for being a bit persecuty.
Yeah.
But God assured him that Saul was needed to preach the gospel to the Gentiles. So Ananias went and found Saul, blessed him, restored his sight, and baptized him. Just a quick side note, at least in this book, Saul never showed remorse, never sought forgiveness, never repented, and never performed an act of contrition. Now, he did address some of his regrets himself in 1 Corinthians, which may have existed at the time, but the author of Acts feels no need to explain why Saul was chosen by God right at the height of his evil and never had to bother repenting for it. So there's just that.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those guys in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Saul took to preaching with a convert zeal, which caused his former Jewish compatriots to conspire to kill him. Lying in wait for him at the city gates, having caught wind of the plot, a group of Christians lowered him off the city walls in a basket, and he fled to Jerusalem.
How big was Saul? Was he smaller than I've pictured him this whole time?
Smaller than a bread box?
I mean, like in the scale of powerful Ethiopian eunuchs, how big was he? How many of those was he?
Oh, I can,
1/4.
You'll start to tell that I'm getting pretty sick of this narrative. Meanwhile, Peter was busy performing miracles in a town called Lydda, when in a nearby town called Joppa, there was a particularly pious Christian woman named Tabitha, who is also translated as Dorcas.
I love Dorcas.
Dorcas became sick and died. I'm sorry, Mark, you got to start falling in love with people.
Oh.
So
yeah, I fall in love too easily, don't I?
You do.
Yeah.
So
I fell in love with Dorcas.
I think we all fell in love with Dorcas.
Yeah. I'm still mourning Stephen, the preaching deacon.
Yeah.
So Peter was called from Lydda to Joppa to see the body of Tabitha, a.k.a. Dorcas, and wouldn't you know it, he brought her back to life, bringing tons of converts flooding in. The chapter ends with...
At which point she wiggled her nose and made Darren go back to work.
Right, exactly.
Wasn't Tabitha the name of
the witch chick? Yeah, for sure.
The witch, yeah.
We are old people.
So Dorcas joins Lazarus in the resurrection thing.
And there's a concerted effort by the author to kind of demonstrate that the apostles have the power of Jesus, right? Like,
sure.
So they're healing the sick, and now they brought
stolen valor.
They brought someone back to life. So the end of the chapter, Simon Peter moves in with another Simon, a different Simon, who is a tanner. Great.
So many Simons,
dude. It's like what? Chapter 10,
and so many Peters, but there's only one that's both.
Right. Yeah. Chapter 10 opens with a man in Caesarea named Cornelius, who was a Roman centurion, seeing a vision of God, who commanded that Cornelius go to Joppa to find Simon Peter, who was chilling with Simon the tanner, and bring him to Caesarea.
Oh my God! Stop.
While Cornelius' men were en route, Peter fell asleep while hungry, and had himself a dream. In that dream, Peter saw a giant sheet descend upon the earth, full of every beast, creeping thing, and fowl in the air. Then he heard a voice which told Peter to rise, kill, and eat whatever he wanted. Peter demurred, as he had never eaten an unclean thing before, but the voice repeated to him 3 times to, go on, eat it.
So he killed Dorcas and ate her.
Get some.
Yeah.
So, and there ended 3,000 years of kosher laws. Weasel stew for everyone. The chapter ends with Peter going to Caesarea, meeting with Cornelius, preaching to him, and surprise baptizing him. Now, you know the scene in every good action movie where right after the car chase, the main character gathers everyone around and tells them all about the car chase they just had? That's chapter 11. Yeah. Basically, Peter recounts nearly in real time everything that just happened in chapter 10.
Oh, God. The Bible keeps doing that, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's useful.
We're getting there, guys. At this point, the nascent Christian faith was still almost exclusively made up of Jews, But with the scattering that happened after the death of Stephen and the persecution of Saul, the gospel was being spread as far away as Phoenice, Cyprus, and Antioch. The chapter ends with a disciple named Barabbas picking up Saul and taking him to Jerusalem. Okay, remember King Herod, guys?
Who doesn't?
Yep. The King Herod who in the book of Matthew ordered that all children under 2 in Bethlehem be put to death to hopefully kill the prophesied king who would supplant him.
Yeah.
Well, he's back, baby.
What?
Chapter 12 starts.
He's not dead yet?
He's not dead. He's got to be old as hell.
He's the inventor of Hamantaschen.
Because, he was alive before Jesus was born.
He was already king before Jesus was born.
Right.
So
that's some crazy shit right there.
Chapter 12 starts with a bang, with King Herod killing James, the brother of John, with a sword and throwing Peter in jail with the apparent intent to do to him what was done to Jesus. Peter wasn't there long, though, because an angel appeared that night, unbound him, waited patiently while Peter got dressed, then sneaked him out past the guards. I don't know why that's in there.
It's thoughtful.
Peter found his way to the house of Mary. No, not that Mary. The mother of John. No, not that John. Whose surname was Mark. No, not that Mark. Peter then recounts everything that had just happened to him.
So it's amazing that there isn't more dialogue in the Bible that's just like, okay, which one are you?
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like this book may have been written by someone with Alzheimer's. I don't. Does that seem unfair?
Truly.
And also, when were last names invented?
I know, exactly. All right, so upon hearing of Peter's escape, Herod had the guards put to death and traveled to Caesarea, where he was smitten by an angel and died. Okay, that was useful. Okay, it's pretty clear in this chapter that the Jews are not just a rival faith of Christianity now, but they are the main enemies of Christianity.
They're the Lamanites, if you will.
That's right. The chapter ends with Saul and Barnabas returning to Jerusalem. We're close. Chapter 13 begins in Antioch with Saul, Barnabas, and John being called to depart to Cyprus to preach there. From there they sailed to the island of Paphos, where they encountered a sorcerer, false prophet, and Jew whose name was Tim. No, just kidding. His name was Bar Jesus.
What?
Bar Jesus. Jesus.
Is that one word?
Yeah, one word. He was also known as Elymas the sorcerer. So Bar Jesus Elymas tried to prevent them from preaching, and Saul.
But people just called him Peter.
What's that?
But people just called him Peter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So he tried to prevent them from preaching, and Saul, his name is now Paul, inexplicably, confronted Bar Jesus and said, quote, O full of all subtlety and all mischief, thou child of the devil, thou enemy of all righteousness, wilt thou not cease to pervert the right ways of the Lord? Aside from asking who was speaking on the road to Damascus, these are the first words we hear Paul say as a Christian.
Wow.
And Bar Jesus was immediately struck blind and wandered off. The end of that story.
I love the idea that he was struck blind, which is probably just that Paul just struck him blind.
I know.
Paul just hit him with the stick.
Exactly. Just did a Three Stooges double finger. Boink, and yeah.
All right,
Yuck,
so
yuck, yuck.
These guys then journeyed to Antioch, where they went into a synagogue for the Sabbath. Paul was asked to speak, and most of the rest of the chapter is an extended sermon by Paul. This marks a narrative change in the book of Acts away from Peter and toward Paul, and for good reason. Peter pretty much had one trick, which was to guilt-trip Jews for killing Christ, which had no power over Gentiles. I mean, he did heal the sick and raise the dead, but he was also an asshole. And Paul was actually pretty good at this. So the Gentiles in Antioch flocked to the church, but the Jews were hard-hearted and expelled them from the city. It's here that we have Paul and Barnabas shaking the dust from their feet as they depart Iconium and chapter 13. And remember that whole thing where if a city rejects you, you knock the dust off your feet and God curses the city.
Yeah, it's like, ha-ha, take that, foot dust.
Foot dust. Okay, in case it has not been obvious, there's a bit of anti-Semitism that runs through the text, and it's on full display in chapter 14, where the Jews stir up the people of Iconium to stop Paul and Barnabas, who then are forced to flee to Lycaonia. Their fortunes were better there, where Paul healed a cripple, causing the people to believe them to be gods, referring to them as Jupiter and Mercurius, and preparing to sacrifice animals to them, which Paul and Barnabas convinced them not to do. However, those evil Jews in Iconium entered the city and persuaded the people to stone Paul. This is really weird, which they do. They stone Paul. It appears that they kill him. They drag his body out of the city. And once out there, Paul just gets up and heads out. That's
so.
It doesn't say whether they killed him or not, but they definitely stoned him. So
okay.
So the two men then go all over the damn place, organizing churches and baptizing converts, before finally ending back up in Antioch, end chapter 14 and part 1.
Woo!
Fuck.
So part 2 obviously is where we pick up on the creation of the holy hand grenade.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's a great cliffhanger.
Jesus.
Book of Armaments.
Let's get out of this.
If I learned anything, there's a lot of Simons, there's a lot of Peters, there's a lot of Pauls, there's a Bar Jesus, and there's a Dorcas. And I think
That's about all you can glean from this.
I'm convinced.
I met a Bar Jesus who was kind of a Dorcas one time.
Did you?
Oh, my cow.
That's what Christians should do when their children come of age, is have a Bar Jesus
Yeah.
on their 13th birthday, and they can get like people in Star Wars costumes and shit. Why don't we do that? All right, well, Doug, I don't know if I should say thanks, but
I don't either.
yeah,
But there it was.
yeah.
All right.
The
All right.
action book of the Bible, guys.
All right, let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a book of the Bible that you want Doug not to bore us with, send us an email at howtoheretic.com.
Please.
Or if you're an invisible person, call me on your invisible phone and leave me a message at invisible 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. That will not be a collect call from Iceland. I'm also on Twitter at howtoheretic.
And as always, thanks to our incredible patrons.
And thank you to Cody Layton Magoose for editing the show.
And thanks to all of you friends for tuning in.
Bye, friends.